Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest, most powerful, and, let's be honest, one of the most confusing ideas out there. We're going to try and understand the real architecture behind the phrase, I love you, what it really means, how it actually works, and what makes it last. So, let's dive in. I mean, think about it. It's a phrase that carries so much weight. Centuries of poetry, all our hopes, our deepest connections, it's all wrapped up in these three words. We hear them, we say them, we build entire lives around them. But for something so common, its true meaning is surprisingly hard to pin down. And that's really the big question for us today, isn't it? What are we actually saying when we use these words? Is it a feeling? Is it a promise? Or sometimes, is it just a habit? We're going to unpack all of that layer by fascinating layer. To even get started, we have to admit just how incredibly flexible this phrase is. Seriously, it might be the most overused and least understood expression we have. It stretches to cover this just unbelievable range of situations. Just think about the sheer variety. I love you can be this profound declaration of belonging from a parent to a child. It can be a quiet confirmation of loyalty to a friend, or a vulnerable whispered hope to a partner. And then, in the very next breath, we shout it because we're eating a really, really good piece of chocolate cake. It can be a promise, a plea, or just something we say on autopilot. The meaning just completely shifts every single time we use it. So, with all this confusion, you gotta wonder, what have some of history's great minds thought about all this? Let's take a look at how they wrestled with this exact same puzzle. Okay, so Virginia Woolf comes in with this kind of sobering perspective. She's suggesting that sometimes what we're calling love isn't some magical force, but a story, a beautiful story we invent about someone else. It's this fragile illusion that we know, deep down, isn't totally real, but we protect it anyway because it feels so vital. But then you get a completely different take from the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. For him, love isn't some fragile story. No, it's the ultimate challenge. It's the hardest work we will ever do in our lives, like a final exam that everything else is just practice for. And just when you think it's all about poetry and struggle, in comes this incredibly practical view from Warren Buffett. He just strips it all down to this one simple, powerful metric. Forget the money, forget the fame. The true measure of a good life is how many of the people you care about actually love you back. So you've got three brilliant minds with three totally different ways of looking at it. Okay, so we've heard from the artists and the pragmatists. But what if we looked at this not as an idea, but as biology? Let's ground all of this in science for a minute, because it gives us a surprisingly clear framework for what's actually going on inside our heads. And this is a huge turning point. Research from the anthropologist Helen Fisher showed that love isn't one single emotion at all. It's actually a combination of three different but connected biological systems that evolved for very specific reasons. And here they are. First, you've got lust, that basic primal drive for gratification. Then there's infatuation, which is romantic attraction. That's the system that narrows your focus onto just one person, making them seem completely unique and special. And finally, there's attachment, that calm, secure feeling of connection that allows for long-term partnership. Now, these three systems can all work together beautifully, or, as we all know, they can clash, which explains a lot of the drama and complexity of our relationships. Let's really zoom in on the difference between two of those. You have desire, which is the spark, right? It's that magnetic pull that draws us together in the first place. But then you have attachment. That's more like the glue, the quiet force that keeps us bonded long after those initial fireworks have faded. Getting this difference is absolutely crucial for understanding how love changes over time. So, what happens then? That biological rush, that intense feeling of infatuation, it doesn't last forever. What happens when that perfect story we told ourselves, that illusion Virginia Woolf talked about, finally collides with reality? And this quote from Anais Nin, it's just the perfect way to understand this pivot. It suggests that everything up to this point, the biology, the infatuation, the perfect story, that was all just the prologue. The real story, the real love, starts right here. So here's the thing. What this really means is that mature love is a conscious choice. It's the daily work of letting go of our dream of a person and choosing, actively choosing, to love the real, complicated, flawed human being right in front of us. It's less of a feeling you just fall into and more of a thing you decide to build, day in and day out. Okay, let's pull all these different threads together. The poetry, the biology, the psychology. If love is really this active thing we do, what does it actually look like as a daily practice? When you strip it all down, maybe this is what we're left with. The phrase, I love you, is our best, most human attempt to cross that vast, unbridgeable gap that exists between any two people. It's an act of reaching out, an effort to truly connect across that space. So, what's the big takeaway here? Love is a total paradox. It's a deep biological drive, but it's also a conscious choice. It's an act of courage that makes us vulnerable, and it's a daily practice of trying to bridge that gap. The point is, it's never just one single thing. It's this beautiful, complex architecture that we get to build our entire lives. And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? We've looked at the blueprints, the different materials, the theories, but the actual work? That's up to us. If love can never be perfectly defined, then maybe the real challenge isn't about finding the right answer. Maybe it's about how we choose to live the question itself. How do we build that architecture in our own lives with wisdom and courage and grace? That, in the end, is the real project.